Hey, what's up everyone? My name's Thomas. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about how I set up my Fuji x100v for photography. So I've had this Fuji for the last like 6 or 7 months, and I've really been able to dial in all the settings and really customize this Fuji x100v to fit my own shooting style. So I thought it'd be a great idea to go through all the settings, the accessories, and really just how everything's all set up on this x100v. So to start out, we're going to talk about the exterior of the camera. One of the first things you can notice is this lens hood. This is a square hood knockoff. It's from a company called Haug or Hague, Hogue, however you want to say it. I used to have a JJC circular hood, but I went to this one because the JJC one wasn't really good. This lens hood allows me to have any kind of 49mm filter to help weather seal it. I just have a UV filter because I don't really like diffusion filters, but I love the look of this lens hood. Cuts out a little bit of light, weather seals it a bit, and yeah, it looks pretty nice too. It definitely adds some length to it, so you can't really fit it super well in a pocket. You still can, but it's definitely a little bit longer than if you didn't have one. Next up, I have a shutter button. I have a soft shutter button from Artisan Obscura, and I went for the concave wooden one. The little soft shutter button is really nice to use. Yeah, haven't had too many issues with it. Sometimes when the camera's on, it'll take photos if I bump into it, but that's about it. But I like the ergonomics of it and how it feels while shooting, and highly recommend it. Another accessory that you probably know that I love is this thumb grip. And I think this is from Haug too. Yeah, same company as the lens hood. And this thumb grip just really makes shooting one-handed a lot easier. So you can see I'm holding it and I just have my hand, the thumb grip there. And you can like grip onto that and like not have any issues with holding it. But then without it, you end up like getting your thumb stuck on the little dial here. So I always use this thumb grip on it because it feels a lot nicer. And for the camera strap, I have a strap from Etsy. It's a guy from Hong Kong. It's a little climbing rope strap. It comes with these little like leather things to protect your camera from the little rings. But I might go for a Peak Design leash at some point because I love the Peak Design system. Sometimes it gets annoying having these on here and it's kind of annoying to take them off. But I've rocked it like this for the last like 5 months, so obviously it's not that big of an issue. So yeah, that's how I set up my Fuji x100v with the accessories. And then sometimes I'll put it on my tripod, and I have a little travel tripod you'll see in a second. But let's get into the settings. So I'm gonna flip the slide around and put the camera on the tripod and go through my whole settings here. So see you in a second. All right, so we have the set flipped around. We have my x100v on the Siri ST124 travel tripod. I'll be making a video about it later, but let's get into how I set up this camera. So first things first, let's turn this on and let's go into our menu here. And as you can see, first off, I only shoot RAW. So for a while I was shooting RAW and JPEG, but primarily I've been loving shooting RAW and then sending that into Capture One or Lightroom and then using the film simulations there. I did load up some Fuji X Weekly film sims. I'll make a video on that separately to go into why I picked out each one and which ones I picked. Anyways, we have RAW, uncompressed, and then I kind of just do standard, so let's change that there. And then the grain. Pretty much all this stuff doesn't really matter because I shoot in RAW, but we'll just keep going down. So for the autofocus mode, I like doing zone and then being able to move it with the little dial here. So sometimes I'll switch between that and then single spot, but we'll get to those buttons in a sec. Autofocus settings, I usually just do 1. Pre-autofocus off. The manual focus assist, standard focus check on. All these are just pretty simple settings. The main thing is how I customize the buttons and the settings I actually use with all of that. Okay. Let's keep going down. Okay. So the photometry, I think this is like spot metering. So I always just do multi. You could go to spot, but multi, I I haven't had any issues with that. For the shutter, I usually do mechanical and electronic, but for some reason I've been wanting to do mechanical because of the sound, but let's do mechanical and electronic. All right, so for the ISO auto settings, I have two different versions. I have Auto 1, Auto 2, and Auto 3. And Auto 1 is kind of like my average. So you can do the default sensitivity, then the max, and then the minimum shutter speed. This one is when it gets a little bit darker, so you have a little bit more on the upper ISO. And this is like nighttime shooting. So I'll usually do no more than 6400 and then no less than 1/180th of a shutter speed. And that's worked pretty well for me, but I stay on ISO Auto 1 like always. ND filter has a built-in ND, which is pretty sick. I haven't really used the flash before. I kind of forgot that I had a built-in flash, so I should start using that more. I feel like you can get some pretty creative shots with that. Movie mode, we're not going to talk about that. It's a whole different video. Let's just cruise all the way through. Okay. Now this is going to get into the bread and butter. So for user settings, everything is all there. Sound, I like keeping everything low. Screen setup. Okay. So for the screen settings, everything is pretty much the same. I don't think it really changed anything. Everything's pretty default. Okay, so now we have the button and dial settings. So for this quick save menu, we have 8 slots, and that is Q right here. So I have the shutter type, so you can change it from mechanical to electronic, whatever. I have my flash settings, I have the manual focus assist, white balance, custom setting, sound and flash, face detection, and image quality. So if I want to switch between RAW and JPEG, or do both, I could switch it in there pretty easily. So that's the Q menu. So I don't really use this menu that much. I use the other buttons around. Anyways, let's get into the function menu. So function 1 is this little button up here. I have that to photometry. So if I press that button, I could change between multi, center, spot, or average. So that is that little button there. Okay, so for function 2, I have the AEL, so the auto exposure lock. You can see it pop up on the screen there on the left, and that's just the front button. And then all the other swiping things I don't really use. So for this AEL and AFL button, I actually put autofocus on there. And then here on the rear dial, I have zoom. And the rear button dial, I think has to be in a certain setting. I just changed the focus setting, and you can see that it zooms in when I press that. So I don't really use it that much. I don't know what setting that is from this side of the camera. I'll have to check later, but yeah, I love back button focusing, so you can focus and then rearrange the camera. Always works out really well. So that's the whole function menu. Let's go down to the command dial settings. So these ones I don't really use that much because that's f-stop, ISO, and then none. We'll get to all the settings up top soon. Shutter AF, have those on off. Auto exposure off. Shoot without card is always off. You always want to make sure you have a card in there, and if you don't want to start shooting. So it's always nice having the camera telling you that, hey, you don't have anything in here, I'm not going to fire. So always good to be safe. I don't really think I customize any of those. Auto power off, pretty simple. Pretty simple there. Okay, cool. So those are my settings in there. So the custom buttons were pretty big. This little button up here is nice to do the photometry. Back button focus. You can change the drive in here, so you can go to like the high shutter speed or the single shot. The zoom is nice there. And then having the button in the front for the AFL. I think it's in a different setting. Okay, so let me move this camera. Let's do this. Okay, so now we're looking at the top of my camera. As you can see, I have my shutter in auto. I have my ISO in auto, and then I just change my aperture with this dial. So essentially what this is, it's aperture priority. I use this dial to expose all my shots. I find that the X100V is a lot nicer, like a little overexposed. So I go anywhere between 0 and 1. Sometimes when it's a little too bright, I'll bring it down to 1 stop below. This little dial will essentially tell the camera to balance out the auto settings to be 1 stop over or 1 stop under or wherever over just the normal balance of 0. I love this because when I do the ISO 1, my maximum ISO is 800. So it'll automatically bounce between 200 and 800 if it's on auto. And all I have to do is just change the depth. So you know how aperture, when you're at f2, there's more depth, more light, or if you want to have more things in focus, you go all the way up. And then same with the shutter speed. The shutter speed won't go anything below what that auto ISO setting is. So I used to do manual everything, which kind of got tiring, just like trying to like switch through all the dials here and then that kind of pick things out. So it's a slower way of doing things that way, and it's more like a film camera, but having aperture priority just makes me treat it like kind of like a point and shoot. So yeah, that's pretty much it. All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This Fuji X100V has been so fun to shoot on, and I've brought it on so many different trips, and it really is my favorite camera to use. And I primarily use it as like a walk around BTS daily camera, but honestly, like, it's so fun to shoot on. Like back in the day, I always thought I wanted like an R5 or something, and honestly, like, I don't know if I'd have fun shooting on that. Like, it's such a behemoth of a workhorse that I feel like it's not really that inspiring to shoot on, whereas this thing just feels fun to shoot on. It makes me want to go take photos. So yeah, it's been fun figuring this camera out and really diving in and making it my own. So like this video if you guys enjoyed it, subscribe if you like these types of videos and you want to see more and stay up to date. Comment down below if you have one of these cameras, and if you don't, let me know if you're looking into one. I'll probably make some more Fuji videos in the future. I definitely want to make one about how I edit my photos, so comment down below if you'd like to see that as well. Yeah, with all that being said, see you guys in the next one. Peace.